and welcome back to the Women's Biz Tribe Success Summit. Oh my goodness, after that last presentation from Ali Hensley, we're really going to shift gears now, and I'm going to introduce you to our next speaker, who is Pauliana Lara. And Pauliana is a US attorney. Right? She wants to help mums, though, see the bliss, not the burdens of being a working mum. It's just so challenging when you are in a high power role. You're always, just trying to meet deadlines, growing your career, giving out to other people. Also, then doing that work-life balance juggle, right? Managing all of the requirements of your children, and not just managing them, loving them, right? And so she's going to be sharing with us today how you can have and enjoy it all, from the conference room to the living room, right? So welcome to the summit, Pauliana.
Hi, Annie. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to be here today. I'm very, very excited to have the time with you and your audience.
Oh, such a joy to have you at our summit, and I've enjoyed having you on my podcast before, and I always just love sharing with you. So how about you start sharing with the listeners then, what are the most surprising things that you've learned about being a working mum?
Yeah, Annie, I love the name of this program and organization that you've put together, because I do think the word tribe is so significant. Before becoming a mother, I think women have a certain concept and notion of what it's going to be like to be in the mom tribe. And I think the image, at least for me, was a much more nurturing, supportive, women are going to have my back imagination. But I think the most surprising thing for me, to be honest, was how judgmental other moms were going to be. And that really, really threw me off. I really expected, when I first became a mom, other moms, whether it was in my community, my family, my place of employment, were going to be supportive and come up and want to give me suggestions and, do this, get the baby to sleep this way. But my experience was I found a lot of women, and even absolute strangers, sharing judgment about the choices I was making without even knowing, whether it was putting the kids in preschool at a young age, or having to put them in after school because I had to work.
Exactly.
And for me, that was very surprising, and that was just my experience. So I share that so that your audience will know that that is a real component of being a professional working mother.
Yes, and I so relate, and I thank you for sharing that. And for those of you listening in, this is actually one of the core reasons why I created Women's Biz Tribe, because my career journey was very much like yours, Pauliana. That I expected women to support each other, and actually it was quite the opposite for most of my career. It's definitely changed in the last 5 years or so, but before then it was almost like got the elbows into you, like, get out of my way, I worked hard to be here, what are you doing here, don't take my very, very limited spot, because women roles were so precious. And then also the judgment, oh my gosh, judgment about, oh, you probably won't be able to attend this because you're a working mom, and things like that, or who's going to be looking after your children while you do this and this and this, but with a tone. And it is hard, isn't it? It's just it breaks your heart, and you're already trying to juggle everything and do everything, and it can be this, I don't know how to cope. But I agree, it was actually shocking at the beginning, and then you kind of
absolutely. And like I said, it was from unexpected sources too. I've talked about other podcasts, there's this, just 2 seconds, Annie, I talk about the bagel lady. I had to go grocery shopping, and I had 2 babies, and they were quiet and well behaved. And it was like this duel with this woman trying to pick out bagels. And she was staring me down like, how could you? And I thought, how couldn't I? My children need to eat, and we need bagels. They weren't throwing things. They weren't making a fuss. They were perfectly well behaved. And this woman was an absolute stranger, yet she was judging me that I brought 2 babies to the grocery store. So what I mean is the judgment can be from very unexpected sources.
Yeah. So you've had a career journey to become a top US attorney, right? So you're very, very high power career. What has been the most difficult parts on your journey of being a working mum and trying to, have your career goals, be able to achieve what you're wanting to achieve, but dealing with the juggle?
Yeah, Annie, so we can have a whole summit on that. For me, again, and I've talked to a lot of women over the years, and you read a lot and you see a lot. For me, it was the guilt. I always knew I wanted to be an attorney, and simultaneous, I knew I was going to grow up one day and get married and have children, but I didn't ever appreciate the fact that I had to reconcile those two. There's only 24 hours in the day. That's never going to change. I don't think it's going to change, but I don't think that's ever going to change. And so whether you're an accountant, a designer, a teacher, those 24 hours pull you in so many different directions. And I really struggled with wanting to be a loving, nurturing mother and being present, and at the same time wanting to be a successful, accomplished, results-driven, goal-obtaining attorney. And the guilt was huge for me. It was a constant and a daily and a nightly, weekends, all of it. I couldn't distinguish the two roles because I was an attorney before I was a mother.
Yeah.
But once I became a mother, it was like my whole universe got flipped over on its head, and I loved it. But I felt bad if I wanted to stay late to finish that one document or to get that one filing or get that one client prepared, but that was already cutting into time with the kids because they have to go to bed at a certain time, and we wanted to sit and have a family dinner. And so the guilt was tremendous for me. There were many nights and days that I just needed a moment because I was emotionally breaking down because the guilt was overwhelming for me.
What was the driving force of that guilt? Do you think that was self-imposed guilt, or was it a combination? Other people just made you feel guilty? What do you think the true source of that was?
Good question, Annie. And I'm really glad you asked that because for me, the guilt was 100% self-imposed. And I talk about this, for me, guilt is internal. It's how I feel about the choices I'm making. It's not something that's other people didn't make me feel guilty. I knew what I had to do for my children. I knew what I had to do for my family and the choices I had to make for my career. But I felt bad about those choices. Nobody else knew that I was going to stay to work extra half hour, or nobody else knew that I was going to miss somebody's performance at school because I had to work. And those were only choices I made. And I had a very supportive employer. I've had a very loving, supportive family throughout, the times I had to raise them when they were babies. But it was me. It was how I felt. It was me telling myself, you shouldn't be here. You should be there. You shouldn't be spending your time doing this. You should be spending your time doing that. And Annie, it was simple things in the beginning, like conditioning your hair. I'm like, I better get out of the shower very quickly because I'm a bad mom or whatever. I felt guilty taking an extra 30 seconds or an extra 2 minutes to, take that very much needed shower and that very needed alone time because I felt guilty. I mean, the kids were just doing their thing. They didn't.
Exactly. No idea. They're certainly not going, Mom.
My coworkers, my neighbors, my family, nobody knew that I was going to be taking an extra 30 seconds to condition my hair except me. But that still made me feel guilty. It's just... Go ahead.
you. I was going to say you reached then a stage of your life. You're still a top career woman, but you've also went, you know what? I've got to be passionate about the topic of balance. All right. I've got to somehow work that balance out for me. And seriously, I do not want women after me having these struggles, these challenges in the same way, because it is ridiculous, So what are some fast and easy things that you sort of implemented or you now try and help others with that can actually start achieving that balance for those people who know they're out of whack?
Sure. So for me, the most difficult thing, yet effective and quickest result thing, was to be disciplined. And in the beginning, the lines of profession and parent were very, very blurred. I used to take calls while I was making dinner. I used to, bring piles and piles of paper home, and do a quick little review where I'm going to see if this document got put together well, while I'm trying to maybe play with the kids or, read with them. And so when those lines started blurring, I really hit a point where I thought something's going to give. And it was a very scary thing. So it was either I'm going to make a really big mistake at work and it's going to cost my client, it's going to cost me, it's going to cost my career, or I'm going to do something with the kids that's irreversible. And so that, fork in the road, if you will, was what triggered me to say, okay, I need to become disciplined. And what I mean by that is, women are always like, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. And so I tell people, learn to love the clock. So if you're at work, you're at work. It's very difficult. And I'm the queen of breaking my own rules. But I've gotten much better, Annie. I've gotten much, much better. And it was tough. But, you're at work and everybody's on a computer nowadays, where most people are on a computer at work. You want to find a cute place to get a haircut. You want to plan a birthday party. It's Halloween costumes. And so I found that if I wasn't disciplined enough to do work while I was at work, I couldn't be mom when I was at home, when I had to be a mom. And the guilt came in that, sphere for me too. I decided I wasn't going to take calls after work. And that was very difficult because I worked with a lot of men who took calls in the morning, took calls at night. They weren't busy, doodling with crayons and doing all the other things that I wanted to do. And again, I struggled with guilt because I didn't want my client or my boss or my colleagues to think I'm not a good attorney because I'm doing things at home with my kids.
Yeah.
So I had to change how I looked at the two worlds. And so at that same time, when I was at work, I wasn't, shopping for kids' Christmas gifts. I was very disciplined. I was getting in, getting focused, getting my work out so that when I did go home, I didn't feel guilty. I could put all that aside. And then, slowly I had to train clients and my colleagues to say, look, you know what? We could talk about that in the morning.
Yes.
Or let's set up a phone appointment. I will give you whatever time you need, undivided attention. We'll answer your questions. And that way the client felt that I was addressing their needs. And I felt good because I was able to be at home addressing the things and the joys that I wanted to be part of at home. But as far as fastest, quickest thing to do is really be disciplined and structure your time.
I think that is brilliant advice to those listening in, watching this presentation, because it means that once you learn how to do that, it's knowing what you're prioritizing and what you're wanting to do, but it just allows you to be fully present in one camp or the other camp. And the reality and the statistics are that when you're sort of multitasking, doing a bit of both, you're actually not achieving that much anyway, so while we think sometimes that I've got to sort of be, while you're there with the kids, you've got to be doing one thing, or while you're at work, you're trying to do some other things. Actually, the data doesn't actually prove that that's great. I also find that it actually just makes you more efficient. It really picks up your speed over the years, because you go, all right, I've got to get all this done, because when I leave, I do leave, and I'm now going home to take a child to ballet or do whatever, and so therefore, it makes you sort of really watch the idle time, which we all have, right? We all do at work, that we're not always 100% focused. So
right. And Annie, I mean, I say that kind of, understanding that, we're still humans, we're not robots, and, you need that little break. And, I also talk about, lunch is your friend, because even at work, you need that, mental downtime. It's not like you're going to just go and pump out work for 8 hours nonstop, or, whatever you do, whether it's you're being on the phone, or you're a researcher, your accountant, whatever your career is, of course, that mental break is just as necessary. But I think once you start shifting your zone, and then you start going down the path, blink, and it's been an hour and a half, and your work is still sitting there and hasn't been done, and now you're on the 14th website finding matching family pajamas.
Really?
I say that because I may have been guilty of that once or 10 times.
That's why we see that in the American TV shows. Aussies don't do that.
Yeah, but it's those things that, like, it's so easy to go down that path, and you get sucked in, and that's a fun, joyful thing to do too. And you whatever it is, like I said, I used to want to plan the best birthday parties. I mean, these became like big events, and the kids were 3. Like, they didn't even care what the birthday invitation looked like, or if the envelope matched, but those were things that I wanted to do. And so I would do those things in the middle of the day. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to prepare for something for tomorrow. But it really took an active exercise of discipline to be able to say, I'm going to knock out my work, the project, the whatever it is that you're doing, or who, the work, the variety of things that your audience members do. You're a fashion designer, you're a dentist, whatever it is, knock out whatever you need to do during the day, and then you're fulfilled professionally. Yeah. So when you go home, you're like, I did a great job on that project. I got the reports ready, whatever it was. And then you're really able to enjoy, absolutely, really able to enjoy bath time, or reading, or playing, or, I was very guilty, Annie, of taking calls during sporting events. My kids played sports. I was that mom, on the phone, clapping, and I felt so horrible, because my son or daughter needed me at that game. That client could have waited until tomorrow. But those were the choices I made, because I had to prove to myself and to the community that I was this great attorney. So I could take a call at 7:00 at night. And the truth is, I shouldn't have been taking a call at 7:00 at night. I should have been there, engaged, present in the baseball game, cheering my son and his team on.
The other issue too, Pauliana, is that when you do take the calls at 7:00, then people assume that that's expected, and that is okay. So you're actually giving them permission to, in a way, use you and disrespect you, because you've actually allowed them. So you've mentioned the word choice a few times, and it is still a choice, right? Because someone else will make that choice not to. Sorry, I'm available between here and here, and I'm still going to be fantastic at my job.
Exactly.
Able to attend all your needs. And then, the world does not fall down for them. And suddenly the person will find, and I'll find that. I used to say, oh, my books are open all the time. And then I went, no, you know what? My podcasts are on this time, or this is on this time. No one noticed, no one complained. We put our own, we give too much permission away for other people to access us. Whereas, if your time's limited, then they'll find a time in that, like if we went to the doctor, right? You don't do, you just have to find an available time. You don't just think, oh, well, why don't they see me at 8:00 at night?
Annie, it's so funny you say that, because I do think that I wouldn't be able to call my doctor at home.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, lady, are you insane? Why are you calling me? I have office hours. But the technology made that line very easy to cross.
Yeah.
Because now you can call your accountant. I mean, I was on the phone with my accountant last night, but that's because there's a filing deadline today in America. But, sometimes it's necessary. But just like you said, once you give them access, it's very hard to take it back without creating an awkwardness and like this tension almost between you and your client or your colleague. So yeah, I was very, very guilty of that, giving everybody access because I had something to prove to them.
So discipline is the easy, fast way once you nail that. What's the hardest thing that you still have to battle with? What's the biggest challenge, do you think?
For me, and I think this is true for a lot of women, and I suspect a lot of your audience and the women in the tribe, they're go-getters, they're professionals, they want to make a difference, they want to accomplish goals for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to go as far as to say I think they're all type A, but I think it's a certain personality, high achieving, high energy. I think I'm sorry.
I'm going tick, tick.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, Annie, I think one thing that I would say is I had a complex and I didn't believe that I could ask for help. The simplest thing. There's a quote, and I forget who says it, and I'm so sorry, but it says, you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that as well. I wanted to do pickups. I wanted to do drop-offs. I wanted to make dinner. I wanted to give the baths. I wanted to do homework. I wanted to be at the game. I wanted to do laundry. You see
You're
how this is.
Superwoman. Yeah.
Yeah. You see the pattern here. Mm-hmm. And, my children's school is a mile away from home. I wanted to be the one to pick them up after school, even though it didn't work for me with the time. I might have been in the middle of a very important project preparation. I may have had a hearing, but early on in my mind, asking for help was almost a sign of weakness. I felt that I wasn't able to live up to the bar and the things that I needed to do as a mother. So if I had to ask somebody for help, it was almost like I was a failure, which is absurd, again, because there's only 24 hours in the day, and people were supportive, and there's other mom groups, there's communities, there's churches, there's after school. But I looked at all of those as, you know what? I can do this. I can be at 4 places at once. I don't need to sleep. I don't care if I haven't eaten in 7 hours. I can do this. And the truth is, I probably could, but there was going to be a price to pay.
Yeah, a big price.
Right. And I just had to change that mindset of, asking for help. First and foremost, it's helping me mentally too. Like, okay, I know my son's, baseball teammate's mom is going to give him a 3-minute ride home. That's great. I don't have to leave across town, get my daughter from dance, drive across town to give my son a 3-minute drive home. I could just ask a teammate's mom to do that. But I started having to look at that as that's helping me mentally. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of failure. It's not a sign of bad parenting. But asking for help was a big, big realization for me. And there are so many people who are in the same situations. And I think it opens the door to them asking you for help. Literally just yesterday, Annie, I got a text from my daughter's friend's mom. Hi, I'm so sorry. I know it's very last minute. Is there any way you can give her a ride to school? She's a working mom. She's a professional. And I said, my pleasure. I'm going by there anyway. But you have to create that environment so other women know you're not going to judge them and you're not going to look down on them, because we are in this tribe together and we need each other and we need to support each other. Otherwise, it's not a fun place to be.
Exactly. And the reality is, you've got all these maniac mums all trying to do that 3-minute moment, and they're all, you're all frazzled. You're all pretending you're not frazzled. Actually, carpooling. I'll do your kids one day, you do the other another day. It's actually very efficient. And the most hilarious thing, since I'm, all my kids are all through uni and now getting married and I'm a nana, they don't remember or any of those moments. They remember the key moments of, a special award, a special play, or this or that. But the day-to-day, seriously, ladies, give yourself a break. You don't have to do it.
And the funny thing is, Annie, is they don't care.
They don't care.
Like, they're happy to be in Mrs. Beasley's car or somebody else's car for those 3 minutes, because it's fun and it's cool, instead of me coming, I'm frantic. I just drove crazy. I haven't eaten. I probably need to shower. I'm tired, all these things, because I wanted to give them the 3-minute drive home. So
exactly.
It's very, very true.
I think it is so refreshing to have this conversation. One final thing before we move on to our next speaker is your final advice. So, for those younger women who are just entering their careers and they go, you know what, I do want to have it all. I want to grow my career. I want to be really proud of my professional skills, my achievements in the future. I'm also a mom and I want to get the balance right in the juggle. What's the best bit of advice you can give them as your closing comments?
Yeah, again, we could have a whole other summit on this, Annie. There's just so much to share. But if I really had to boil it down, I would say, be in a good place mentally. And, we talk and we're sharing stories and it's laughter and, we understand each other. But there's a very dark side of this. And I see, I'm dealing with a woman right now who's on her 3rd child, and I'm kind of coaching her and helping her get through. And she's having issues where she doesn't want to be around the baby because mentally she's not in a good place. So do whatever you need to do, whether it's get help, shrug off the judgment, address the guilt, be disciplined, all the things we talked about, so that up here you're in a good place. It's so, so vital. It's so important, because if you're not healthy here, the outside world for you, your family, your children, your colleagues, your community is such an unhealthy place to be. And the whole point of doing this is to create loving, nurturing environments for ourselves and our families. So if you need to take the mental break, if you need to speak with a professional, if you need to go on a walk, if you need to take that shower 30 seconds longer, do the things so that you feel good about who you are up here, because this dictates everything else. And I can't stress how important mental health is for working moms. I cannot. And then there was COVID, which just flipped everything on its head. We were scared. We were anxious. We were nervous. Nobody had answers, but you still had the kids. You still had your family life, and you still had your career. So mental health, that word gets used very heavily, especially during, before, and after COVID, but it's because it's so, so important. So if you need the cup of coffee with a girlfriend, you just need to sit in a bathtub for 20 minutes so that you can take care of this. That's the best piece of advice I can give.
Brilliant advice for those listening in. Find Pauliana at paulianalara.com if you're wanting to reach out, following up some conversations. If you're at that moment juggling it, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I want to talk to this amazing lady Pauliana, who's a lawyer, and has been through this lived experience, and she's got the balance right, and she really has got some fantastic tips. And definitely reach out via any of our platforms that you're watching this summit on, or you can find it via the tribe as well. So thank you so much for joining us
Thank you so much, Annie. My absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for doing this. What you're doing is so, so valuable and so important and so appreciated.
Oh, thanks so much, sweetheart. Everyone else, stay tuned. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to be introducing our next speaker to you. Her name is Beverly Price, and you're going to want to stay tuned. So get yourself a quick cup of tea. I'll be back very, very soon. Bye.